This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. It's Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And today, Kim's in South Carolina. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. And we have a very special guest today, Grant Cardone, CEO of Cardone Capital. He's a national speaker and entrepreneur. But boy, he's tearing up the real estate market. Anyway, welcome, Grant. Kim, anything you want to say to Grant before we start?
Thank you for being on the show, Grant. You know, these times right now, all I keep hearing is, oh, price of real estate is so expensive. It's so expensive. And like in Arizona, well, yes, it's expensive, but relative to other parts of the country, not so much. So really interested to get your take on today, what's going on in the you're the real estate expert. What's going on in the world, and we've got a lot of subjects and ground to cover. So excited to have you on the program.
Well, and just I'm a huge fan of both you guys. So can you get it out of the shot, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. He must be on the podcast.
This guy does this every time. I think he wants my attention. So
it's the Grant Cardone show, not your show.
yeah, exactly. So look, I think that I've been buying real estate for 25 years. I think we're in a super cycle that has never, ever happened before in our lifetimes. And Robert's laughing right now. He's like, oh, that's too optimistic. But truly, I've been talking about this country would become a renter nation. I've been talking about that for 10 years. It's happening right now. Also, I do not think real estate is overpriced today. I think cap rates will compress to 50% of what they are today. And I think that people are underestimating the $4 trillion that's been printed. If you look at the amount of money that has been printed and compare that to the amount of appreciation of real values in real estate, the property values have not kept up with the printing press. And we would have a long way to go before we're in any kind of bubble territory. Last thing is, the people that are buying real estate today are completely different than 2010. This has nothing, not even similar. These are wealthy people buying second and third homes. This is not a first-time buyer. People are paying either cash or putting 50% down. In many cases, they're putting down more than they've ever put down. And you also have investors that are buying real estate from end users. They're lining up all over Scottsdale. There's 25 offers. This story's told every day. There's 25 offers on a single family home. Everything's going over asking. And the guy that gets the deal is an investor that has no intention of living there, but it's going to Airbnb the property.
Okay. So, and the other thing is that Grant's in Miami was the hottest property market around. Kim and I are in Scottsdale, and we just closed on a property in Austin, Texas, which is the hottest of hottest.
Yes.
But the point we want to get to here is why people are moving. First of all, the migrations. And if I could shamelessly plug my book here, it's called The Capitalist Manifesto. It comes out, it's not really a real estate book, but it's about why communism is taking over America, and it's taking over cities like San Francisco. So it's not about San Francisco, but one of the reasons people are leaving San Francisco is I have a chart of human feces. It's where are people leaving more human crap on the streets, and people are leaving in droves. And it's kind of an interesting market, that would happen. And Kim and I had to close a property in Portland, get out of it because the tenants couldn't get to it because there were so many homeless stacked up around it. Is that correct, Kim?
Yeah, this was surprising, Grant. So I called a broker thinking, the market's going to be pretty depressed up there because of all the riots and the homelessness and everything that's been going on. And I said, so we'll probably just take a loss on this property. I'm okay with that because we just want to get out. And she goes, are you kidding me? This market is on fire.
On fire.
Yep. People aren't necessarily moving into Portland. They're not moving into Portland from other states, but people in Portland are buying and moving up. And so we didn't even have it listed. It wasn't even listed, and it sold for, actually we raised the price because we had so many offers and so much interest. We raised the price and sold it without even listing it. But Portland, Oregon, it didn't make sense to me.
But
Grant, our tenants were complaining because they couldn't get to the property.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And
that's why we've been very selective about where we're buying. I mean, we're buying mostly blue states. We are in Austin. I've been wrong about Austin so many times. Like I'm like, it can't get any more expensive, and it's because we don't understand the amount of pressure the amount of money and people moving to places that protect them from what they're leaving. New York, Illinois, New Jersey. Everybody knows this story, but they're not betting on the story. And I would just suggest to people, this story is not going to change. The more mandates they put out, the more crazy politics that people make, the more they pressure landlords, the more eviction moratoriums they do. All that stuff is pushing people and money out of New York, New Jersey, California,
Oregon, Seattle,
Oregon, anywhere the politics are crazy, regardless of what side you vote on. If they're not protecting the money and the people investing money, that money will move, and it's moving to Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Florida, the Carolinas. Like, it's just going to explode down here. Texas is on fire.
Thank you. So the other thing we're talking about here is this: you raise a lot of money. And I meet so many people. So I'd like to buy real estate, but I don't have any money. So, you idiot. The reason you buy real estate, you're supposed to use other people's money. Any comments you want to say about that, Kim? I mean, there's plenty of money out there. You want to use a little of your own money as possible, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to hear Grant's take on this and how you started with raising money, because I hear a lot of people, they think, oh, I'll just raise some money, but without the experience, without the knowledge, you gotta take care of other people's money much more carefully than you take care of your own, and it's a huge responsibility to raise capital. So how did you start raising capital?
So the only other people's money I ever used was the bank's money. Like, the idea of me going borrowing money from my brother, my sister, my uncle, or much less the public, was so terrifying to me, because I knew that my money wasn't at risk when I was buying multifamily. To me, like, I'm not a gambler. I was in Vegas this past weekend, and I'm betting $50 at a table. The other two guys are betting $2,000, $5,000. And I know I'm worth 100 times what both these guys are worth together. And they're looking at me laughing like I'm a coward. and one guy says to me, he's like, man, I can't believe you're only betting $50. Like, he knows I got 12,000 apartments. We have $4 billion worth of real estate. And he's like, why are you only betting $50? I said, because I don't gamble. And I don't gamble with my money or your money. And so when I was buying multifamily, I didn't want to have to explain it to people. I've been a pro, like, crazy multifamily guy for 20 years, believing in it. And probably before it was really what it is today. And the first 4,000 or 5,000 units I bought with my own money, I basically used my other businesses to fund that. I went out, worked hard, grabbed money, and bought them. And then about 5 years ago, I guess, my wife said, you need to let the people that follow you invest with you, along with you. And so we started looking at it, and we raised $6 million for a deal in about 60 minutes. And I was like, wow, that was easy. And it's not family funds like you got. I'm not going to wealthy people. I'm not getting money from Blackstone or a family fund. I'm getting money from people that actually need the opportunity and can't buy these big deals. They can't find the big deals. They really Americans, and you guys know this, really most Americans get the leftovers in real estate. They get the single family house, that we call a dream, that you guys both know is a liability, not an asset. They're hoodwinked and tricked into believing it's some big asset that they have when it's not, which I'd love to talk about that, because that makes people's heads pop off. And the second thing they get is the duplexes and the fourplexes, most of which all went back in 2010 to the banks. The stuff that we're buying, these are massive properties, $80 million, $150 million. This deal I had up behind me a few minutes ago was $230 million. This is Blackstone quality, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan quality stuff. And we're raising money from accredited and non-accredited using Instagram, Facebook. This was not even allowed years ago. No brokers, no middlemen. Merrill Lynch can't call me. Fidelity can't call me. Family funds are not allowed to call me and give me money. It's like, you guys could call me and say, hey, I want to put $1 million in your deal, or we just opened this up $1,000. And we're literally changing the way people can invest in multifamily. Because Kim, I agree with you that to think that somebody's going to go raise $2 or $3 or $4 million on their first deal, probably not real, and they probably shouldn't do it.
So let me say this much is the easy part is raising the money. The hard part is managing the property. And I think that's what people forget because, when Kim and I first started out, the managing a property is the biggest business of all. But it also, if you're just a mom and pop, you can only manage so many properties. So what is the secret to going from a small investor to managing, let's say 150 units at a time?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, just skip the small stuff and go buy big deals. Even if you have to collaborate with somebody else to do the big deals always work better than little deals. Multifamily, as you guys know, it's all about math. It's multifamily. It's not 1 unit or 2 units.
But you make a good point, Grant, because if you're going to start, so I started with a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house because that's how I learned. But if you're going to start with a big deal, then I would say you want to definitely have an experienced, knowledgeable partner in that. You don't.
Yeah, you're not going to get the deal. You're not going to get. Yeah, in this market, you're not going to get the deal if you don't have the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So like even in the 26 unit and 30 unit and 80 unit deals, you're going to pay a premium so heavy today to get that deal. This is so competitive now. There's so much money chasing this yield.
No, that's Grant, hang on one second. I'm being very clear with people. I don't recommend that at all. If you cannot manage a property, you don't know the legals, the ins and outs, because you have a contract with your renter. And if you don't perform on your contract and also the renter tears your property up. So just say you can just go and buy a 150 unit apartment house. You can do that, but there's not many people who can. My point here, everybody, I want you to hear this with me. The raising of the money is the easy part, especially today. It's managing the property and making it turn a profit for the long term, and also protecting the asset with the legal contracts is where people fall down.
Yeah, and look, when everything's good, but your COVID hits, you're going to find out if you're a manager or not.
Exactly.
Well, we don't manage properties.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, I don't manage my properties, but somebody's got to manage the manager.
And that's what I'm saying is in my opinion, it's easy to raise money today.
Yeah.
So to say to somebody to buy, a 400 unit apartment house and just manage it, I think they're going to, be the skipper of the Titanic. That's my point of view. Any comments on that, Kim?
Well, that was our situation. So we, managed our properties. We had on-site managers and we managed them, but I could only manage so many by myself. And then we couldn't buy anymore because I didn't have the time. We had the company and all of this. So that's when we found our partner, Kenny McElroy. And he said to us, I said, can you manage our properties? And he's like, no, I only do 150 units or more. Mm-hmm. And so then we had to step up our game, but now we had property management experience, knowledgeable. He started in college managing properties and he's still doing that today. And now, of course, developing and acquiring.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear that our message here, Grant, your message is probably different than ours, but to me is the management of the property and making it turn a profit is the hard part today. The raising the money is easy. There's a lot of financing for it. People are going to throw their money at you.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know that I'd say it's easy. We've raised $700 million. You still got to manage people, phone calls. Like it's not. When you say it's easy, it's not easy. Like we do it with no ads, Robert. No, I haven't spent any. I think I spent $50,000 in ads for $700 million. No brokers, no middlemen. I still got to get a message out, right? So the hard part of real estate today for me is getting the deal.
Like, I don't agree with that.
It's even getting control of an asset. Like when I'm competing today, we're buying a deal in Fort Lauderdale, it's $230 million. Like who's going to buy that deal? It's a handful of names, AIG, Blackstone, JP, Goldman. Like these are big monster $1 trillion companies, not $1 billion companies. And, the thing they can't do that I can do is they cannot write a check the day they look at the deal. They can write a check for the whole amount 3 weeks from now. I can't close with all cash in $250 million, but I can go hard with $2 million today. And they can't do that because of their fiduciary responsibility. So these big guys that we're competing with today, like if you can't move fast, you're not going to get the asset, as you know.
Yeah, Grant, hang on. Not too many people are going to do what you do. Our audience wants to know how to get started right now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
please be respectful to our audience. Okay. Any comments, or Kim?
Well, I was actually, my question to Grant was, how did you get started? Because you started with nothing as we did. How did you get started? How did you get into that whole real estate game?
Yeah, I got started with one unit, like the same way, like, and I'm not being disrespectful to anybody. I'm telling your audience they're better off partnering with somebody on a big deal than going one unit by yourself. Because the problem with one unit is when they move out, as you know, you're 100% vacant. And all of a sudden real estate starts to hit some new reality.
So you would start with 500 units at a shot first deal?
I started with one unit.
No, but are you recommending they partner with somebody on a 500 unit deal?
I would at 1,000%.
Wow.
So
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's a different strategy because we
wouldn't do that.
The knowledge and the experience and the education that goes with the hands-on management. That's our philosophy.
I would tell people the best thing for them. I don't think you have to go 500 units the first time, but 200 is a great number. And I would tell people the first thing they should do with real estate is invest in real estate to learn it. If you want to play the Bitcoin game, go buy some Bitcoin first, then start learning about it, because you're not too many people out there are learning and never actually make an investment.
Okay. So, hey, we got to go for a break. Look, I just want to be everybody clear on this. Grant recommends buying a large unit to start with. We do not. I agree with him. The hard part is finding a great deal, closing the great deal, financing it, but also then managing it. Because if you don't manage it well, that's when you lose the deal. So we come back, we'll be going more into how you get started in real estate and this great migration going on throughout the world, where they're moving from. But even if they're moving from there, as Kim says, even in Portland, Oregon, where we had homeless sleeping outside of our unit and our tenants couldn't get to it, they still wanted to, the property still held its value. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android and YouTube. And please leave us a review whenever you listen. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we don't sell anything. We don't sell investments. And we just basically are education and information. And so if you have a friend, family member, or associate who wants to learn more about real estate, go to richdadradio.com and replay this program. Our guest today is Grant Cardone, CEO of Cardone Capital, international speaker and entrepreneur. And he is the best-selling author of the 10X Rule. If you're not first, you're last, as well as a sales trainer, speaker, and entrepreneur who has worked in the real estate industry and auto industry. Grant is a real estate mogul who's built into a $1.9 million portfolio of multifamily properties from scratch. And so I just want to be clear on here is that what he's saying is that Kim and I do not recommend, yet you should listen to him. Because this is the big difference with real estate. It's not liquid. And liquidity is one of the biggest things you need to realize when you're investing. For most people, they should just buy a mutual fund, and if it's, or a stock or a bond or an ETF. The reason for that is because paper assets are liquid. You make a mistake, you make a mistake in the morning, you can be out of it that night. You make a mistake with a piece of real estate and it's a really bad deal, you write that sucker down. Or the mistakes just pile on. So in real estate, the most important thing, as Grant says, is how do you find it, how do you finance it, and how do you manage it? Those are the three pieces. If you make a mistake anywhere along those lines, you get crucified. So the word is liquidity. I wouldn't recommend starting with a 200-unit apartment house because you make a mistake. I don't care how smart you are, you'll still make a mistake.
Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand is what is a good deal? What makes a good deal? What makes a bad deal?
Yeah. And how do you manage it? How do you finance it?
How do you manage it? How do you finance it? So one of my questions is, like, for example, for us, when we're looking at property, we always want to go where there are jobs, which is a little more tricky today than it used to be. But that's a criteria, because if they aren't working, they can't pay rent. So I'd like to know from you, Grant, how do you tell a good deal? What's your criteria for a good deal? And what are the mistakes of a bad deal?
Yeah. So, thank you. And I just want to go back a second. I would suggest that liquidity for people today is a problem. It is not a good thing for people to be liquid, because then they end up losing money. They don't invest their money. They end up buying stuff they don't need. Liquidity finds emergencies. Liquidity is an old Wall Street game so that they can convert money. I want to be illiquid, Robert. Personally, I want my cash to be in something real that I cannot access.
Grant, hang on. So I'm just saying, how fast can you get in and out of a bad deal? That's all I care about.
Oh, well, I don't want a bad deal. So this goes to Kim's question, okay? If I'm extremely disciplined, jobs are very important. Location is vital. Yeah. So like we are extremely disciplined on what markets we go to. And when we go to a market, Austin, Houston, Scottsdale, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, these are pro business states, positive job migration. We buy real estate in locations. We pay a premium for our real estate to be in a location where our renter does not exceed 20% of their income. So we were buying like really great locations with strong job bases. We never over leverage a property, and we're buying as big as we can, as nice as we can. And I would recommend that for everyone.
So are you investing in high-end properties?
We've done everything. We'll do anything from value add all the way to a trophy AAA. We've done them all. As long as that location will support it. Boca Raton, for instance, I bought 1970 stuff. The same year bought 2020 a product in the same market in the same year.
So are you right now fishing for investors?
No, I close these deals with my cash, Robert.
Okay.
And then I open it up after it's closed to an investor base. We're open to non-accredited and accredited investors. 1,000 to our average non-accredited does about 25,000, but they can start at $1,000.
So I have a question in given in these times. So you've got high end, you've got value add properties, meaning fix them up and make more profit. How did that all work out during COVID?
We had actually, while the newspapers and the media was reporting a 72% collection, we collected 98.9% on a 95% occupancy. Our collections went up in our markets, not down.
Okay.
Our renewals doubled. So when the renewal, as you know, the lease is terminating, and COVID actually stopped people from shopping apartments. So COVID was actually, in disguise, looking backwards, was a blessing.
Yeah, and I think due also to, back to the point about management. You've got to have great management in order to do that. Our management team with Kenny and Ross, I think we were at like 91%. Most of the properties, Scottsdale, Texas. Yeah.
So the lesson here is that management is a big part of it. Raising money is a big part of it. Finding a property is a big part of it. And that's our message. So Grant, I want to thank you. Congratulations for all your success on this program. And then we'll come back. We'll be talking more about what different markets we're in. Okay, we'll be right back. Thanks for being on the program, Grant.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Once again, listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, and YouTube. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we're a purely educational company. We do not raise money. We don't sell anything. And so repetition is one of the best ways you learn. So if you'd like to listen to this program again, go to richdadradio.com. And most importantly, your friends, family, and coworkers who need to learn about, especially real estate today, because it's such a hot subject, go to richdadradio.com. And again, I want to thank Grant Cardone. The message here is that everybody has a different formula. As my rich dad always said, there's a million ways to financial heaven and a billion ways to financial hell. And right now, many people are going to hell because they really don't know what they're doing without financial education. They do not do. So back in 1996, Kim and I created the cash flow board game so you could understand how financial statements work, income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, the difference between an employee mindset, self-employed mindset, big business mindset, and investor mindset, and all that. So we're just purely educational. And I'd be upfront about it. Grant recommends you just start at 200 units with a partner. I don't recommend that. You can invest with him and do that, but I would personally not do that. So Kim, why don't we just start with how you got started? Because, I started in Hawaii and then
I started teaching. One of the most dangerous things, I say, you never teach your wife golf and don't teach her about real estate either. But I mean, when I introduced Kim to real estate, she took to it like a duck to water. But you started really, really small, didn't you?
I did. And I think one of the differences in our philosophy versus Grant's philosophy is we're about financial education. And the best way to get educated is to get hands-on and to get in the game. And so I think for us, for me, and for you and me, Robert, for somebody to start on a 200 unit building with a partner, the education is going to be very, very, very different. And to me, that's very risky. So we're all about starting small, get the knowledge, get the experience, get the education, and then build from there. I think that's just a difference in philosophy. And
have we had problems with partners?
Oh yeah. Especially when it comes to money. I mean, money is a psychotic subject. And so if you're only going into real estate for the money and the return, then probably Rich Dad is not your philosophy to follow. Right. But if you're in it for the long term, for the education and to grow it and to hang on to it, then yes. So as you were saying, I started with a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house,
Portland, Oregon,
$5,000 down payment on a $45,000 house. Nervous, scared about making a mistake. What if the market turned? What if the tenant moved out? All of that. But it was these small properties. Then we went from, another single family, went to 6-plex, went to a 12-plex, went to an 18-plex. And every time more mistakes, more learning, more knowledge. But now we can do the big deals because we've got that foundation of education and experience behind us.
Right. And for us, the question is, how do you find a good deal? Well, you got to look, but you got to know what you're looking for. And that takes a while to learn, right?
Yeah. What kind of real estate and where is it? And I mean, the landscape has changed so dramatically in the last 2 years with all the migration, as you talk about, Robert, people moving out of states to get to more non-regulated states where they want their freedom. As Grant said, the blue states are very, very popular right now.
Right. And the other thing, too, is interest rates going near zero.
Excuse me, the red states are popular, not the blue states. They're moving from the blue states to the red states. I get my colors mixed up.
So anyway, with interest rates dropping so low, that's why people are kind of jumping into real estate because it makes it affordable. But when they drop interest rates, prices go up. And so today, if you talk to most people, we're in a bubble. And that's the dangerous part because I'm not saying they will, if they raise interest rates, the bubble busts. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm talking about liquidity. Liquidity is how fast can you sell it? For example, if I buy a new pair of, let's say, shoes, and I pay $100 for the shoes, how long will it take me to sell those pair of shoes? It will take me a while because nobody wants them. And it's the same with real estate. If people don't know what it feels like to have a piece of real estate nobody wants, for whatever reason, they don't want it.
Well, look at the commercial office buildings now. They're all empty. Yeah. If you can find a way to repurpose them, great. That's what's needed right now. But I wouldn't want to own a big office building right now anywhere.
No, you have to. I mean, I highly suggest, because real estate is, once you buy it, you bought the Titanic. It'll either take you to heaven or it'll take you down to the bottom of the ocean. And thank God we've never had that happen to us. But also what happened was when Kim, as we got more successful buying the property, and Kim was the property manager. And then what happens, property management consumes you. Mm-hmm. Just like your dad said to you, I don't want to fix toilets. And well, nobody wants to fix toilets, but that's what the property manager does. Plus, it's a contractual agreement between you and the renter. And they can violate, they can trash the property. We've had property managers steal from us. It's just one big zoo. It's a Jerry Springer show on steroids once you get into property management.
And it's harder. It's harder to self-manage your properties, but the education and the knowledge you get, because even when we had an on-site manager, we're still the owners of the property. We still make the final decisions. I'll never forget many, many, many years ago, getting a call at 11:30 at night. And this tenant was trying to move out with our stuff. It was a furnished house. They were taking the refrigerator, the stove, and the police had to come. And it's like, I look at that experience now, I wouldn't trade that for anything. That was
you know something's wrong when there's a U-Haul in front of your rental property at 3:00 in the morning. So what Grant is saying is very accurate. You know, he's looking for accreds and non-accreds. Accredited is a definition of a class of investor. A non-accredited means somebody who's not accredited, and you'd be careful. But if you want to invest with Grant Cardone, then he's the perfect guy to give $1,000 to, or 10,000, whatever you want to do, and he'll do all the work for you. That's a different type of investment. So at Rich Dad, we always recommend you learning by experience to do what you do. And then you can go through the process, because it's a process. Yeah. Remember that guy, Kim? I still remember he wasn't paying you rent. And I walked up to the place and Kim had to evict the guy. And I gave you so much credit because he was about, let's say, 35 years old, pretty muscular. And Kim's standing there, and the sheriff serves the guy for the eviction. I tell you, you haven't evicted somebody, it's pretty interesting. So the guy is coming down the house, he's emptying the property, and he's giving us a stink eye. He goes like, it's Christmas time, I got 2 kids, but he still didn't pay the rent. And so he's being evicted, and every time he moves the stuff onto the sidewalk, he gives us a stink eye. And I felt for you, Kim. I mean, Kim's she's not very muscular. She's very attractive, but not muscular. This guy's giving her the stink. I know. But this was the funniest thing. Kim says it's worth the misery. So this guy's giving me a stink eye. It's Christmas time. I think he's got 2 daughters. He's dragging his Christmas tree out and all this stuff. And he comes up to me and he's still giving me the stink eye. And he says, it's Christmas. And Kim just holds the line. And what am I going to do with my furniture? It's all on the sidewalk out there. And and this truck pulls up. And they loaded his furniture onto their truck.
They thought it was rubbish.
Kim and I sat there talking to him. I'm looking over his shoulder, and these guys are, it must be Christmas. And they're throwing all of his furniture and his Christmas tree on their truck. And I said to him, well, if you keep talking to me, pretty soon you won't have anything to move. Remember that, Kim?
I remember. And, that goes back to another really valuable lesson in that same situation, is you also have to understand the rules around rental properties.
Yeah.
And some states are very pro-landlord and some states are very pro-tenant. And Arizona was very pro-landlord. So when I took that case to the circuit court for eviction, the judge actually reprimanded me. And she said, this person hasn't paid rent in 4 months. How come you have let him go this long? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to help him out. I'm trying to be nice. It's getting near the holidays and just trying to help. She's like, you have to enforce the law. You have to enforce the rules. You should have evicted him 3 months ago. And she read me the Riot Act. But It was again, had I not had that experience, I wouldn't have understood how the laws operate and what needs to happen. So the hands-on, doing the real thing, it's where real learning happens.
Yeah, and she's still a personal friend of ours, isn't she?
Yeah, the judge.
She's great. She says, by the way, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, it was a crack up. But that's how we learn. And so today, Kim, we don't manage it, Ken McElroy. So how do we transition to Kenny? What did he say to us?
So when we met Kenny, we were managing, our biggest property we had was about 35 units. And we couldn't buy anymore because I couldn't manage anymore. I didn't have the time. And so I was so happy to find Kenny, because Kenny's philosophies in real estate and cash flow are totally aligned to ours. And we're like, oh, good. Can you start managing our properties? And he said, no, I can't, because I only do 150 units or more in management. And at that time they were just property management. Now they're doing development and of course acquisitions. And so that forced us to up our game and to find 150 unit property. And then he and his team manage that for us. And they have since they're managing all our properties today.
So we're now up to about 10,000 units. So he's very similar. Kenny McElroy is very similar to Grant Cardone. If you don't want to manage and find and go through the headaches and the legal battles of property, then you give Grant your money and he'll do it for you. It's the same as Kim and I right now. We just call Kenny up, See, we need debt. This may not make sense because Tom Wheelwright's book, Tax-Free Wealth. We need debt to offset our taxes. It doesn't make sense to most people. But I'll call Kenny. I said, Kenny, I need about $20 million in debt. So he'll buy a property and borrow the $20 million so I can amortize and depreciate the property. That's the game of real estate. So Grant Cardone does some things very similar to what Kenny does. And I would recommend investing with Grant then if you're so inclined, but you still have to do your due diligence.
You still got to do your homework.
Yeah, you still got to do your homework. But real estate is not like a mutual fund or a stock or a bond. You buy it, you own it. And if you make a mistake, you really own it. Nobody else does. That's why. So real estate is a very different game. We love the game. I mean, it's the best game in the world, but you have to decide, do you want to be good at it? Or do I just want to give real estate my money to somebody like Grant Cardone? And that's the big difference here. Okay. Sarah, any comments before I end?
It's just different philosophies. And we've always said, like Kim always has the example, if you get in the game of silver, you just have to put a little skin in the game.
Yeah.
And I like the philosophy of starting small, but everybody's philosophy is different in how they get rich. So I like the two different views. But I'm used to the rich dad message. So I understand starting small.
But you're looking right now yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. Actually, we just put in an offer we'll Airbnb it. It's a property on a lake. Where
in the lake?
It's on Sylvan Lake in Indiana. So it's cold right now. I was just out there and there's snow starting. But before people think I'm crazy, my brother has 2 other houses on the same lake and they're packed all summer long. However, because we're on the shore side, we'll have hunting, ice fishermen. So I see the opportunity in it being a year-round opportunity.
Already selling. I love it.
So it's my first one. So I expect a lot of mistakes and a lot of pain, but I've been sitting on this idea for, I've wanted to do it.
Right.
And I finally decided I've got to get over my fear of failure. I've got to just do it. Yeah. And so I'm doing it.
So that's what I mean. She'll soon find out what she knew and what she didn't know, but what you don't know will pop up really quickly.
Fully expect that. A lot of headache.
I'm like a proud father going, yeah. I want to protect Sarah, but if I protect you, you don't learn anything.
Yeah. Well, and if I just sit on the sidelines and watch, we have a lot of relationships with other, investors and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I just get to watch all of their failures and success. And to me, that's not fun anymore. Like I'm ready. I'm ready to fail.
So Airbnb, you're going to Airbnb it?
Yeah. It'll be a weekly short-term rental opportunity.
Well, welcome to the insanity.
My hair's going to suddenly go more gray. No, I'm really excited. And we were talking a little bit in the show about partnering with somebody who's done it. My brother's been doing this for 10 years on that lake. What's great is he has a handyman, he has a property manager, he has a house cleaner. So he has all those.
Good.
Yeah. So that'll make it a little bit easier. Not that I expect it to totally be easy, but so that's the benefit in partnering with somebody like him.
Very smart. So anyway, I want to thank Grant Cardone's different philosophies and all this. He raises a lot of money that he buys it, secures it, and then securitizes it. That's what he talks about when the accred and the unaccred, non-accreds come in. And that's when he makes more money on that stuff. So that's kind of a game. Again, as my rich dad said, there's 1 million ways to financial heaven and 1 billion ways to financial hell. And if they raise interest rates, millions of guys will be going to hell. So you got to be very, very careful. And that's why we talk about liquidity, is how fast can you get out if you make a mistake. And that's what we talk about. Final words, Kim?
Oh, this was a good discussion. I like it. And it's always good to know. I just always want to keep paying attention to the trends and what's happening with real estate and where people are going. And, the whole thing with the jobs market, things are changing every single day. So I want to keep my finger on the pulse and learn as much as possible. Kenny and Ross, they're educators as well. They're always educating me and you, Robert, about the properties. And I just want to stay on top of the trends.
Yeah, there's 3 books I recommend from Ken McElroy, MCELROY, if you're really interested in real estate. Well, number 1 is the ABCs, it's the basic of how you invest. Number 2 is property management. And number 3 is advanced. It's how you use finance to do kind of what Grant does. But we highly recommend you study first, because let's say the book costs you $20. So you got $60 invested. It's better than 10,000 and finding out you're the idiot who bought the Titanic. Anyway, I want to thank Grant Cardone for his contribution to the show. And thank you all for listening to the Rich Dad Radio program. Thank you. Bye.